And right now, I am very pleased to have with us on the program Staff Sergeant Clint Romesha, retired from the U.S. Army, Medal of Honor recipient. Sergeant, how you doing, sir? It's good talking with you again.
Oh, doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I am excellent. Thanks so much for coming on the program. Happy Veterans Day to you.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Cam. Appreciate you allowing me to come on and do a little talking today.
Absolutely. And I'm sure today is a very busy day. I am sure that, look, you're in high demand every day of the year, but where are you this Veterans Day?
I am in North Dakota right now, but in about an hour, I got to jump on a plane, and we'll be heading to Nashville for an event down there this evening.
Oh, fantastic. I was actually in Nashville this past weekend. That's where the NRA annual meeting is coming up next April. It's a fantastic city. I know they're going to love to have you. I got to ask, Sergeant, you and I have had the occasion to chat a couple of times. And I'm just curious, what does Veterans Day mean to you as a veteran, as somebody who I think is emblematic of all who have served in the minds of so many Americans? What does today mean for you?
You know, it's really, to me, it means a lot about acknowledging all of our servicemen and women who have served for our country from the beginning of time here for us, to reflect on their service and their sacrifice. But more importantly, we need to understand that it's not just one day of the year that we've got to do this. We've got to continue to do this throughout all 365 days of the year. For me, it's great. I spent most of the time this morning on the phone just catching up with a lot of my old buddies that I hadn't talked to in a little while, and just being able to reminisce and talk to them on this wonderful holiday.
I think we as a country, you're right. We certainly don't see, hopefully, that antagonism. Although we can talk about maybe in some of those quarters where we do see that antagonism towards the military. But it strikes me that there are a lot of Americans who can go about their daily life and never realize, maybe never run into a veteran, but certainly never realize when they do run into a veteran, because as we've switched to that all-volunteer military, the number of active duty military members is certainly not what it was during the Greatest Generation. And I think for a lot of us, we tend to think of veterans as guys who served in World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam. I think there is almost that cultural block about no. There are people your age and younger who are veterans, and I'm not sure that we as a society really deeply get that.
We're really asking a lot more of a lot less nowadays. And having a full volunteer army, I think our nation kind of forgets what these kids do. When they raise that right arm and say, I'm going to go do and serve, it's not like Vietnam. It's not like in wars past where you got drafted, you were kind of forced into things. We just really got to understand that when our veterans serve, whether it is a volunteer army or whether it's our nation calling upon them to do their duty in a draft situation, but these men and women put their lives on the line and give up their freedoms, freedom of choice and freedom of speech when they don't quite agree with some of our nation's policy, and when they get asked and told to go do things in strange and foreign countries, that we really need to honor that, to understand that even though the numbers are kind of dwindling, there's not as many that had served in conflicts past, that the weight in which they carry this country forward is a debt that we can never do enough to repay that.
Absolutely. Talking with Staff Sergeant Clint Romesha, Medal of Honor recipient. And, we are seeing our military being called to serve in sort of unique ways. We've got boots on the ground in West Africa, building medical facilities to take on Ebola. We've got more advisors going back to Iraq to assist the Iraqi military. I suppose they won't be fighting ISIS, but there's certainly still a role to play. And I want to ask. I hope you don't mind if I ask a question that might get a little political, Sergeant. But where do you see the role of the military going forward here? Are we going to be able to serve the primary mission of defending this nation's borders from those who would seek to harm us, seek to destroy us?
Well, it's great you asked that question, Cam. We got to understand that our government works for us, and we don't work for our government. And we need to hold them accountable. If we don't agree with the choices they're making and how they're utilizing our military, we need to make sure we're vocal. we need to make sure that when they make those decisions, they're not full-heartedly, they're not for some side political agenda, but they're really intending the purpose of our nation's military servicemen and women, that they're going to do what the will of the people is.
That's a fantastic answer. All right, I want to get personal if I can for a second, Sergeant. On this Veterans Day, what made you decide to join the military in the first place? We talk about this being an all voluntary military. What made you decide to serve?
I came from a background of a family of military service with my grandfather, World War II, my father, Vietnam. Both my older brothers served. I never actually seen that as a prerequisite to be a member of my family, but just military service in general was always kind of something that was ingrained from an early age. I just always knew I wanted to serve, but like what I really realized right away after my first about 6 months to a year in the Army, that I served for one reason of what a lot of guys do. They join for apple pie and grandma and maybe a college fund. But you really, as I look back, I realized I ended up serving for those brothers to my left and right, and to serve for something greater than me. And that's that simple little document, that Constitution, that framework of this nation that makes us so great. And if we forget what that is and we don't set and do everything we can to protect that, it's going to be for nothing. And the sacrifice of those that went before us is going to be for nothing. So me personally, it was just a sense of, got my foot in the door, not really understanding anything as an 18-year-old punk kid. But by the first year in, I realized, it's time to give back for all the heartache and the bloodshed and the sweat and the tears that had been laid down before me. And I just needed to do my part.
How do you think we as a country are doing? I certainly think everybody in America would say that you have done your part, Sergeant, but how are we doing as a nation, you think?
I'm very hopeful. At times you'll watch the news and you'll hear some very disheartening things, but one of the greatest strengths we have in this country is we're always ready for a challenge, always got to be pressing forward, always got to take one more step. I'm truly hopeful that we have so many great Americans all around us, so many great people in our communities that won't let that happen. And just to remember, don't feel like you're ever lost in the crowd. Stand up, make your voice heard. It's great to see that we're having some more veterans starting to get more in the political game, bringing that experience into our politics. And I'd really like to see more of that. I'm by no means advocating that I will ever run for political office, but, we've got to be, the herd minority that so often we kind of look too much into ourselves and think that, no one wants to really listen to us sometimes, that we just did our jobs, which we did, but, we got to get over that hump to really get out there and let people know that have kind of forgotten or don't even know a veteran. Make yourself available, share your story, and just bring awareness.
Well, listen, you are continuing to do exactly that, Sergeant. I appreciate you coming on the program today. One final question for you before we let you go. How concerned are you about the rise of the Islamic State and this? I won't say it's not a new ideology, but it seems like they've done a pretty good job of mass marketing their ideology in a way that Al Qaeda and the Taliban certainly weren't able to do, using social media and really well done propaganda. How concerned are you about this new threat?
It's truly a battle of ideas, and as a country, we've survived this before. We've pushed through, but it's taken a lot of hard work and determination. It wasn't that long ago that the wall fell in Berlin off two major countries on a different set of ideas. And it just all gravitates back to that. I think sometimes we apologize too much for just being Americans, and I think we need to get over this, that we are who we are, and we should never be embarrassed for what we represent, what we stand for, and to make sure that we touch that next generation, that our kids, our nieces, our nephews, or, for some of the older generation, our grandkids, we need to pass on that sense of patriotism and pride and just loyalty and love of country to them. And that's what's going to take hold, and that's what's going to, ultimately reign triumph.
Staff Sergeant Clint Romesha, Medal of Honor recipient. friend of the program. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program. It's always a pleasure getting a chance to talk with you, and give our best to Jana Waller next time you see her.
I sure will. Thank you so much, Cam, for letting me get on. And once again, I want to thank all of our men and women that have ever served. Thank you so much on this awesome Veterans Day.
Well, thank you for your service, and you are always welcome anytime. We've got a microphone for you. Staff Sergeant Clint Romesha, Medal of Honor recipient, with us here on NRA News